So in terms of shelf life, I mean, we're unique because we are vertical and we have high turn. So in terms of shelf life, what's this? Do we know the specific question around? So, yeah. Oh, of the RFID tag itself.
Francisco?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a hard question because it's down to the physics of the chip, but in theory and within what I would call the timelines of apparel, it will last as long as the apparel item will last. I would say that. I mean I can come up with a number if you'd like, but it basically the shelf life in terms of its readability, of its having it the right data, it's not a problem. It will last as long as the item lasts on the shelf.
To put it simply, it's not been a question that we've asked ourselves while working with the technology. Is the tag going to last while it's within the store footprint, or what we need it to do while it's in the life cycle within our supply chain. So we've never really needed to ask ourselves that from a retail perspective.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. Is there a retailer consortium for RFID?
Yeah. So I would say GS1 US. They actually help in an antitrust environment get retailers together in a peer-to-peer to talk about challenges. How do we get adoption? How do we move forward? What are you doing? Are there any other use cases? And that is where really the industry is looking to have the retailers get involved. And I'm going to tell you, the suppliers are there as well. It's really important that you at least get involved with at least GS1 US. The standards are there from the general apparel, from what we do at Macy's. We have all of the major retailers and the verticals and even overseas working on it. We're going about looking at tagged item standards. We're going to the next evolution of performance. So instead of having to choose a tag provider, can we come up with a grade like we did with the barcode and ANSI? And there's all kinds of initiatives around commerce ready. So not only EPC or RFID, but now if in a seamless channel, right? What do you want my requirements to be? Packaging, where do you want the EPC? Is there any kind of special elements to do that, et cetera? So I would say GS1 US.
Okay. Can you talk about global versus US adoption of RFID? Maybe Bill or Francisco?
So generally what we're seeing right now is that it's kind of ebbed and flowed. The U.S. started off as the leader in adopting RFID in the retail space. I would say right now Europe is ahead of the U.S. in adoption from both the number of retailers and the depth of that adoption. And interestingly enough, Pam talked about the RFID tag in the U.S. being on the price ticket itself or embedded in that. There are those in Europe that are just building the RFID tag into the product itself. And ultimately, I believe that's where it should be because it stays with the product. It helps with loss prevention. It helps with returns. There's a lot of good that can come by that product being embedded. And so right now, Europe's ahead for adoption in 2015, based upon what we've seen over the last 6 months. Both for retailers who are getting ready to go into full implementation, as well as several that came, I mentioned earlier about on the backside of this holiday season of the realities of the shifting consumer buying patterns. It was very interesting this year from Black Friday on and what we were seeing with how consumers shifted their buying patterns and really put that emphasis on that omni-channel. We've had a lot of retailers contact us in the last month they're on that list that have not done anything heretofore. So I think 2015 is going to be a watershed year for RFID from both the breadth and the depth perspective in the U.S. So we may be able to catch up with Europe.
Okay. We have time for one more question.
Where do you see the best ROI when the RFID chip is tagged to factory, the warehouse, and the store?
So the question is, where do you see the best ROI when the item is tagged at manufacturing, in the warehouse, or in the store?
I was just going to say that out of all the experience and all the ROIs we've done, we've actually developed a 5-step process to support retailers take a number of decisions. That's one of them. All of them, irrespectively, as the return on investment, it's always much higher when you put it at source, because it doesn't burden anywhere. It doesn't, you know, if you do it at, you know, DC, if you do it in your store, it's extremely cumbersome, difficult, and you're prone to error. So typically, I mean, by the answer is I would say across the board at source, but maybe not just. Apparently, I have the panel in agreement.
Okay, I'm afraid that's all the time we have. I want to mention that if you didn't get your question answered, we are going to be hosting a Twitter chat tomorrow. I believe that's at 1 to 1:45. And you can send your question via the hashtag RFID ready. You can also use at Avery Den RBIS. And we appreciate your coming. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you to our panelists.